Hi, everyone. This is Kate. Welcome back to another episode of the Omnichannel Marketer. I'm excited to have Kevin Wong here on the show, co-founder of Lunar, the first American craft hard seltzer. So, Kevin, pumped to have you on the show. To kick things off, tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah, pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Born and raised in Virginia here, and came up to New York about 10 years ago. Worked in finance for a bit, jumped into enterprise software, worked in tech for most of my 20s, and 2 or 3 years ago, ended up jumping into the world of hard seltzer. Head first, really, starting from home brewing in my apartment to now being in stores, and it's been a hell of a ride.
Hmm. So interesting. Tell me about, the origin of the brand. How did you go from enterprise software to, building a beverage brand?
Yeah, I like to say that I fell into this by chance. I worked at Yext, which is a location marketing software platform based in New York. I was there for a good amount of time, and throughout my career, on the weekends, I volunteered at a lot of Asian American nonprofits. I was pretty active in the community, and it's always been on my mind, right? This blend of East and West, and this notion of hyphenated identity, right? Someone, immigrate, from people coming from different countries and growing up in the States. And so identity, and culture have been such a big part of my nighttime and weekend kind of, thinking. And that translated into this one moment 3 years ago when I was eating Korean fried chicken with my friend. And we were just like, why are we drinking Bud Light with such authentic food? Why isn't there a drink that really pairs well with that? And you go to grocery stores the next day and we're just like, wow, it's all black cherry stuff. It's all IPAs. There's nothing here for the Asian American consumer. And really that's reflective of this trend in Asian flavors that we're seeing. And so we ordered a bunch of homebrewing equipment, literally bought kegs and tanks, got that shipped to my apartment in East Village, and really got going brewing, typical brewing in your home and having friends come over, trying it every month. And after about a year, people were like, you know what, Kevin, that's really good. Actually, it's quite tasty. You should sell it. And that is how it all happened.
Okay, well, actually keep going with the story. So, you were making a beverage that, better represented Asian American heritage and kind of, this blended identity. Who did you start selling, or where did you start selling first?
Yeah, our first, when we launched, and it was, such a long time of like figuring out legislation, regulations, and how to launch an alcohol brand. So navigating all of that, and when we decided to launch, this was late October of 2020, which was nicely timed with the Delta wave of COVID-19, which was really fun. So our first launch was all online. It was a fully D2C launch, and we sold out of our first production run without any marketing, really, just word of mouth. And that's how we knew we were like onto something big. And after that, we then went at it, quit my job, jumped into Lunar full time, and we then really started going after building our retail presence. That was always a core pillar of our strategy, is building a wholesale retail presence in a big way. For us, our brand is very much tied with culture and heritage, and food is, and drink is such a big part of that, right? It's such an expression of cultural heritage. And so we knew that it was important for us to be at all the top restaurants, all the top bars, the places that you would want to be seen and be associated with. And for us as a brand, right, Lunar is a drink that's meant to be had with dinner, right? When you're eating your favorite hot pot, or you're at your favorite Korean barbecue spot, right? Lunar is that drink for that occasion. And so we knew we had to put that into that moment. So that was always, for us, that was the first year of our business, was running around the city, knocking on doors, talking to bar owners, talking to restaurant owners, and really selling Lunar door to door.
So, Shopify, was that, your e-commerce? Is that where you launched your initial D2C presence?
Yeah, it's interesting. We now use Shopify for our
Okay.
D2C. we started with a third-party platform called Taproom, which is on Shopify. But because of alcohol laws, you're technically not allowed to sell D2C, as
Mhm.
in like the transaction and the flow of money. And so to get around that, brands will kind of do a thing where we route orders through our platform. It routes to a third-party center that holds a retail beer and wine license, and then that kind of company then fulfills and delivers the order. So that's kind of how we launched. It's kind of like a interesting workaround for a lot of alcohol brands that just takes time to set up, but you're still able to do all the marketing things you need to do since it's still your Shopify.
So then, door to door selling to bars and restaurants to, have that pairing from there, did it become a more dedicated, traditional retail? Talk to me about how you're thinking or how you thought about retail launches and, where that is on the, on the roadmap and how you're growing the brand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We always think about, there's on-prem, in alcohol, we talk about on-prem and off-prem. And for us, on-prem is your restaurant accounts, your bar accounts. And off-prem is grocery, right? That's club, that's drug. And for us, when we think about on-prem, that's where the brand is built, right? Having your brand, having Lunar at a Michelin-starred Korean ramen restaurant, that is so accretive to the brand. It's a moment of trial, right? For a customer to be like, hey, that sounds really dope. A lychee hard seltzer. Like, let me grab a can of that. And once they try it, they'll get hooked. They'll kind of have that moment. They'll enjoy dinner. The food and the drink. It's all kind of blended into one harmonious experience. And then they seek out the product and the brand at somewhere else, at a retailer or online. And our first year, we didn't have a distributor, and so we were going after the on-prem specifically, right? Really trying to build the brand in the on-prem and build awareness. And by year two, in 2022, we then started landing and launching our retail chains. So we landed and launched Trader Joe's, Whole Foods, BJ's Wholesale, H Mart, Total Wine, and recently we're rolling out Costco at the moment.
Wow, congratulations.
And
And
it's a lot of scaling. It's pretty scary. But I mean, I think a lot of it's the brand that you build that then translates that demand that gets built, the brand recognition. Then, oh my gosh, I had this at the udon spot in Soho. Now I can get it at now it's at Costco. That's insane. Like, let me grab a pack. And we really see that consumers are telling us that that's their channel of discovery, and then that's their channel of transaction.
mm. So, now that you're unlocking these huge like transaction opportunities in retail, what are some of the, biggest challenges that you're experiencing as you, scale across these major channels?
Yeah, there's a few. I mean, there's too many to count, but probably the ones that we think about the most. I think one is just operational. It's really about how do you scale a physical good quickly, and how do you kind of meet the demands of your retailers and continue growing without really going too crazy on the operation side, right? And then the second part is the attribution. It's how do you quantify how, where people are discovering a brand and how they're transacting. With alcohol, it's typically pretty tough, especially in wholesale retail, when you can't necessarily know who is buying where and why, right? Where was that initial point of discovery? How do you attribute that when you're not in a traditional DTC setting?
So how are you, attributing that? How are you thinking about bridging all of these different channels that you're selling through?
Yeah, there's a few ways that we do it now that are not super perfect. We do a lot of surveying. We do a lot of, Q&A with our consumers. And we get pretty directional results from there. We're pretty lucky that a lot of consumers will take pictures of us at retail. So we see that quite frequently, and we'll see that, oh, hey, this is their history, right? They saw us here, and we can kind of attribute that through email interactions or through Instagram interactions. But a lot of that's very qualitative, right? We are pretty qualitative in overall. One of the things that we're toying with is how do we, tie a coupon code to a moment of purchase, and that's something we're trying to unlock at the moment.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, we should talk after about how we might be able to help with that. But I think that's something that we experience across a lot of our customers is just, as you scale, the ability to, have this consistent relationship as well as attribution across different channels. How, brand building's obviously been very important and was kind of critical in, the first couple of years. How do you think about your end-to-end brand experience to those consumers? And, what are you doing to differentiate here?
Yeah, we think about our brand in a sense of what are all the occasions, all the touch points that we have with a consumer's day to day, right? Whether that's grabbing a can during lunch, right, or during work happy hour, maybe seeing us on the menu at a restaurant after work, going back home, having friends over, bringing a pack from the local grocery store. There's so many touch points in our someone's day to day, and we aim to try to present ourselves with the right foot forward in each one. And so that spans anywhere from the packaging of an individual can, right? Making sure that that's consistent with the packaging of our retail package, right? Our variety pack. And we have QR codes on our can and on our pack. And so when people scan to learn more, making sure that that takes them to a destination that is natural and inherent to where they're scanning from, right? Is this a landing page that is, in relation to a variety pack? Is this a landing page in relation to a single can? Or is it just a landing page from them seeing us at an event? We do a lot of events. And so directing them, and that would be most likely to our homepage or to our Instagram for them to find out more. And so for us, it's very much about the flows of how someone behaves and what moment are they when they discover us or interact with us.
That makes a ton of sense to me. Could you talk a little bit about maybe some numbers, growth and goals, like where sales are now and where you'd like them to be?
Yeah, last year we did close to $500,000 in top line. A lot of that was from our wholesale retail channel. And this year we're hoping to be around 2 million in top line, also primarily driven from our wholesale retail channel.
Amazing. That's incredible growth. How do you think about what's next? Like what becomes the focus going forward?
Yeah, for us, we launched in New York, which many brands like to say New York is the hardest market to launch in. And there's a few reasons for that, but I think one is that New Yorkers, New York is such a melting pot, right? There are people of all walks of life, but I think that's actually an opportunity for brands because that allows you to really test your brand with many different types of people and to really see where your messaging is resonating. And once you kind of really build your foundation, really, and really understand your demo, then you can think about where do we go next? Where do we go from here? So for us, we've really built out and identified a few core demos for us. And our next step for this year is to expand our markets and launch in new states that correspond with the demos that really resonate with us.
So for those who aren't building an alcohol brand, and I know, specifically you're a hard seltzer, could you talk about some of the, unique challenges of building, a hard seltzer brand? I think you already referenced one of them as it related to kind of the Shopify partnership, not being able to sell directly yourself, but does that affect your broader go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, alcohol is a super unique beast. I think the biggest issue is that 100 years ago, during the Prohibition, there were laws passed that kind of established what we call the three-tier system, and that mandates that a supplier or manufacturer, like ourselves, we have to sell to a distributor who then sells to retailers who then sell to consumers. As a part of those laws that were passed, each state in the US has its own set of laws around alcohol. And so when you think about launching a brand, you have to launch state by state. And so the route to market is very fragmented, right? It's you start in one territory, then you expand from there, and it's state by state. For us, we're only really sold in New York City. This was our first territory. And so for next year, it's around going beyond that, right? We've really established our success, our velocities, our presence, and really gone deep in our home turf, which is New York City. And from there, then you think about, okay, where do we go from here? What is the next market that we open? How do we go deep there? It's sometimes you look at other traditional CPG brands and they're like, oh, we're going national with Whole Foods in its 2,000 stores. And I wish I could say that one day. It's hard to say that because you would have to be licensed in have distributors in all 50 states, which would be
Mm.
like a nightmare of a challenge. So that's the playbook for most alcohol brands, unless you're like a celebrity backed brand. Typically, when you build it from from step one to the next, you're going state by state.
That makes a lot of sense. So you have a background, you've done some investing. I have a similar background myself. I'm curious, how does that help you think about building this brand, and also curious about how you thought about funding the company. A question I get all the time from brands is introduction to investors. So would love to hear how you think about that.
Yeah, I think from probably the best thing that the best skill that's come from having been an investor is that one, you've seen a lot, right? You see a lot of different businesses. You see how they present themselves. You see how they talk about both the opportunity and how they will get there. And I think that kind of thinking paradigm is helpful when you're a founder, because instead of you sometimes need to step away from the day-to-day of a founder and then say, hey, how do I think about this business as a backable asset, right? What is the return profile that's expected, and how do I craft a story? How do I build the business? How do I make the decisions so that I can achieve those results? It's unique because you commonly see, I mentor a good amount of people about how to create their pitch deck and how to talk about this opportunity. Many people see that opportunity but don't know how to articulate it, right? Why does it exist? Why now? Why am I the right person? Why am I the right team to go after this? And packaging that up into a story, like that's the primary job of a founder, is storytelling. And it's interesting because for many investors, you see a lot of stories, and there are certain chapters that you need to have in your story. So knowing which chapters to talk about and how to kind of string them into a coherent kind of novel, that I think is the most important skill that we take away. And it's not just for pitching investors, right? It's for talking to media, it's for talking to press, it's for talking to retailers, right? You have, as a founder, with Lunar, right, we have a huge opportunity ahead of us. There are macro trends, secular trends that are occurring that are the wind at our back. And how do we communicate that succinctly, demonstrate proof points and data points to back up our claims, and then show them why we are well poised to capture that. And I think all of these points are just things that I think for most people you need to do a lot, do many reps in order to get right. But it's so worthwhile, right? It's, if you do this right, what you see, that vision you see in your mind, then it can get properly communicated to others.
So talk to me about this storytelling with retailers, because I think that that's critically important. Like, what works and what about the Lunar story really resonates with retail?
I think for us, there's quite a few things. One of the trends that we're seeing the most of is this rise in the Asian American flavor palette, right? Asian flavors are really trendy, and they're having a moment now, but it's been in the works for 20 years, right? Panda Express has been taking over the nation for decades and decades. And in the past 5-10 years, you're seeing things like Jeremy Lin, right? Rising to stardom, and Crazy Rich Asians and Bling Empire and Parasite, and just the rise of Asian culture, just really taking the world by storm. And with that comes the rise of Asian flavors. And as we see, not only from a cultural side on TV, but also from a demographic shift, right, with the Asian American consumer taking up more and more of the US population, you see this perfect kind of blend, right? This meeting of two trends that gives birth to this opportunity. And for us, as an Asian American brand with Asian flavors, retailers are looking for ways to both be on trend and to better serve their Asian American demographic. And it's, for us, right, like, on top of that, we're also a premium product in a category that's historically been dominated by mass market, low quality seltzers. And consumers are tired of drinking White Claws since 2019, since the beginning of the pandemic. They're looking for something better. And you see brands like Owl's Brew, June Shine, and us, like, as those premium, better for you replacements that actually have a mission, have a brand, have flavor. And these are really coming to the forefront of that trade up. and retailers are looking for consumer ways to kind of satisfy that consumer trade up.
And then, once you're in retail, what have been the ways that you've made sure that you're going to be, successful driving that, important metric around velocity?
Yeah, there's so many tools in this playbook. I haven't tried them all yet. That's kind of our goal, is to go through the whole playbook, but we've done quite a few things. We do a lot of demos. It's always, I think people love the human element behind any brand. They love seeing the makers. One of the brands I respect a lot is Ruby Hibiscus, and they are always demoing. It is amazing. And we demo quite a good amount too. And not only does it show to a retailer that you're serious about that partnership, but if you do it right, if you're a good salesperson, good storyteller, you can sell a lot of volume that one day. I think our record is probably around 36 units, so 36 8-packs of ours in like an hour and a half. And that was the entire stock at that Whole Foods. And so we went to the store manager, we're like, hey, y'all need to buy more. But I think that's really one way for you to not only collect qualitative feedback about your brand, but talk to consumers, engage with them, see what they're looking for. And that adds up over time. You really get a sense of who is looking for your brand, what your brand means to different people. But also just a way to get out there and kind of have people really, it's a really great moment to meet the maker behind a brand. Like, it kind of builds that one-to-one connection. And I think over the past 2 years since starting Lunar, I think I've met around 50,000 people face to face, just through events, trade fairs, shows, festivals, concerts, you name it. And I think that's gone a really long way in building our brand. And I would say beyond that, which is, I would say demos are not super scalable, but even beyond that, I think talking about your retailer constantly and talking about which stores you're available in on email, on social, repeating that message over and over again, that kind of builds that connection, that kind of node to node connection in your fans' minds of this brand is available at this retailer. And really cementing that relationship is important. You have to repeat it multiple times before it really clicks for somebody. And then it becomes a part of their normal routine. Oh yeah, each time I'm at Trader Joe's, I'll grab some Lunar. Or, oh, I always go to that Whole Foods and I know they always have Lunar there. And I think that's really important too, is ensuring that connection sticks. Because otherwise, no amount of local hype marketing and driving people to one store, like that works one-off, but that's not a repeatable, scalable process.
Makes complete sense. So, Kevin, we chatted, before we started recording about how you're passionate about resting. Can you tell me a little bit more about why this is so important to you?
Yeah, I think I just mentioned that I've met a lot of people face to face, and I'll say last year we've done over 150 events. Just last week I was at an event, more than one event every night of the week. So it's a lot of events, and I think more important than ever, reflecting upon kind of what we've done over the past year, it's being able to take time to focus on my own health, to ensure that I am in a great condition to really seize the day every day. I think that's, it pays dividends in the long term. And that's why I'm focused on that this year.
And so, as a tactical tip for people, is that just, ensuring you get a certain level, amount of sleep each night?
Definitely sleep. Get your 8 hours of sleep, or however many hours you need. Make sure you get your sleep. Make sure you get sunlight during the day, and make sure you drink plenty of water. Stay hydrated.
Great. Okay, moving into the lightning round. Favorite omni-channel brand?
Ruby Hibiscus.
Thing you wish you could change about our industry?
Oh man, I need a minute to think about this one. I think there is a glorification of founder scrappiness that exists in CPG. And people are like, oh, he started in a farmer's market and he was working 5 years at various farmers markets before he got where he was. And it's such a nice soundbite to say, but it glosses over, founders not taking salaries for years, or working double jobs, or being out every single day, standing at a farmer's market for 8 hours and then going home and sending emails and doing business planning. And I think that glorification it's harmful to future founders, because you go into into the CPG industry thinking that, oh, it's MBD, that's pretty normal. and you realize that your day-to-day is rough. And I think a better appreciation of the amount, especially in CPG, which is such a business that requires elbow grease, having moments to really celebrate, really talk about founder journeys. I think that's really important for the future of our ecosystem.
I love that. Favorite podcast?
I don't listen to podcasts, so we gotta skip this one.
That's okay. Favorite newsletter?
Andrea's Snack Shot.
I do love that one. Favorite social media channel?
LinkedIn.
Okay. Favorite book?
Let's see. I gotta peek behind me, see what I just ordered because I forgot. Hold on, let me take a look. Oh my gosh, this one I haven't started yet, but I'm really excited to start. My favorite book that I'm very excited to read is Burn Rate by Andy Dunn.
Cool. Agree. I have not read it, but it's on my list. And then favorite event that you're planning on going to this year?
Wow, that is a damn good question. I don't know.
Okay. You're going to so many.
Well, I feel like people always will answer like Expo West or whatever. You know what I mean? I feel like that's like a typical answer, but we don't go to that one. So I was like, oh, I don't know the answer.
It's okay. Kevin, thank you so much for the time. Where can listeners connect with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter @WovenKing, or on Instagram @DrinkLunar.
Amazing. Thanks, Kevin. If you liked this podcast, follow me and the Bridge page on LinkedIn and Twitter for hot takes and tactical advice. If you really loved today's episode, we'd love a review on the podcasting platform of your choice, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Thanks for listening.